Upon the back of the colossal whale stood a young man with deathly pale skin and long, slightly curled blonde hair streaming behind him. A faint red lingered in his eyes, as if sleep had eluded him for many nights, yet his aura surged like a tidal bore, his late, great encompassment cultivation laid bare without restraint. "By big fish?" he asked with a chilly smile. "Do you mean me, or my spirit beast?" Though his features were almost delicate, his voice rang deep and firm. "Whichever suits you," Hanli replied lightly, lifting his gaze toward the heavens. Just as he had feared, Violet Spirit and Kong had failed to escape. A vast spirit domain had sealed the skies, and several hundred heavenly court cultivators, immortal envoys among them, had cut off all retreat. "Either way," the blonde youth said indifferently, "you'll be swallowed like a minnow." "May I know your name, fellow Taoist?" Hanli asked. "Shui Changtian," he answered with a smile. "I've been ordered to take you, surrender, or I'll seize you myself. Those who've tasted my water prison all regret surviving it." "A name born of water," Hanli said coolly, "worthy of a burial at sea." With a sweep of his sleeve, 72 azure bamboo cloudswarm swords burst forth, raining into the waters below. Golden lightning erupted, interweaving into a vast sword array where thunder surged like a raging ocean. Heaven boomed as pillars of lightning, thick as vats, crashed downward. The giant whale cried out and sank slightly, cowed by the heavenly might. "There's nothing to fear," Shui Changtian said calmly. "Only a touch of cardinal heavenly lightning." He cast out his spear and struck a palm downward. The seabed roared. Within hundreds of thousands of kilometers, all seawater rushed inward in a frenzy. Towering waterspouts rose to meet the lightning, detonations shaking sea and sky alike, as water and gold light tore into one another. Shui Changtian looked up. Amid a blazing sphere of golden radiance stood Hanli, arms folded, eyes cold. A glance to the distance showed Violet Spirit and Kong already far away, heavenly court pursuers in frantic chase. Only then did Hanli turn back. "I'm in a foul mood," he said flatly. "You chose the wrong moment." His sleeve swept again. A time spirit domain unfurled, spanning thousands of kilometers. Moon and stars filled the sky. Mountains heaved from the seabed, cloaked in forests, with a winding river flowing into the sea, its waters floating atop the ocean like oil upon water. Shui Changtian's brow tightened. The might of a oneness-tier domain pressed upon him, and he realized the intelligence he'd been given was fatally flawed. This was no early, great encompassment cultivator, but one standing at the pinnacle of mid-stage. "So the heavenly court let you walk the path of time this far," he said, blue light shrouding his body against the domain. "A pity. The moment you chose it, your end was sealed." Spear in hand, he moved fluidly, unimpeded by the time law. With a light tap of the spear tip upon the sea, a vast blue halo spread outward. In an instant, waves stilled, winds froze, and even the flow of origin chi fell silent, as if the world itself held its breath. Hanli beckoned. The 72 swords returned and merged into one, golden lightning crackling eagerly. "Remarkable," Hanli said. "Water laws mimicking spatial might." "This black wind sea is small," Shui Changtian replied with a smile, "but it's enough. With the sea as my domain, I'll bring you down." He leveled his spear. The sea split asunder, calm and silent before Hanli, while behind Shui Changtian rose apocalyptic waves that thundered forward. Hanli stepped out calmly. Mountains surged up behind him, vaulting overhead to collide with the waves. Time froze them mid-crash, forming a suspended wall of water. Hanli alighted on the highest peak, then leapt forth, swinging his azure bamboo cloudswarm sword. Heaven answered. A bolt of golden lightning descended, transforming into a sword projection tens of kilometers long. Sea and seabed were cleaved apart. A bottomless trench carved open as titanic waves raced outward for tens of thousands of kilometers. The heavenly court formation around Kong and Violet Spirit was thrown into chaos. They struck decisively, slaying several immortal envoys and breaking free. Violet Spirit glanced toward Hanli, but only a dense shroud of vapor remained. "Fellow Taoist Han will manage," Kong warned. "We're the ones in danger." She knew he was right, yet worry lingered. Since leaving the underworld, Hanli's state of mind had been unsettled. Still, she forced herself to focus. Becoming a burden would only endanger him further. Hanli's strike rivaled the might of his former almighty sword array, yet it struck only emptiness. Shui Changtian had vanished. His aura filled the sea itself, elusive and omnipresent. Suddenly, beneath Han Li, a colossal vortex opened, its pull like the maw of a primeval beast. Han Li rose swiftly, but the vortex followed, currents converging to crush him from all sides. Blue whirlpools clamped around his hands and feet, wrenching in opposite directions, seeking to tear him apart. Corkscrew streams of seawater bored into his senses. He sealed eyes and mouth, yet water forced into ears and nostrils, sea law power invading his body. Sharp pain flared within as the ocean itself sought to drown him from the inside. At that instant, Shui Changtian flashed back before Han Li, spear tip pressing against the center of his brow. His voice was cold and sharp. Seawater has already invaded your organs. Yield now, or I will crush your heart and shred your liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. I promise you do not wish to taste that agony. Then try, Han Li replied, meeting his gaze without the slightest ripple of fear. Shui Changtian frowned and clenched his raised hand, but nothing happened. His expression shifted. What? How much seawater do you think you can still command? Han Li said lightly, shaking away the blue vortices clinging to his body. The river! Realization struck Shui Changtian. The Time Law River had already seeped into the surrounding sea, stripping it from his control. With a furious roar, blue radiance burst from Shui Changtian and surged into his spear. A blinding sphere of azure light shot forth and detonated before Han Li's face. Han Li had long been prepared. His heavenly baleful purgatory art surged. All 1,800 profound acupoints ignited, hexagonal scales spreading across his skin. The explosion thundered. Seawater for thousands of kilometers was vaporized in an instant. Shockwaves tore through the heavens, waves rose like mountains, and even the clouds were scattered. The spirit domain vanished. Shi Chuankong seized Violet's spirit and, with a spatial art, fled tens of thousands of kilometers away. The Heavenly Court cultivators were less fortunate. Waves smashed them into the sea, knocking many unconscious. The Black Wind Sea fell into chaos. Even distant Dark Veil Island was struck by unprecedented tsunamis, spared catastrophe only by its great protective array. When the blast faded, the seabed lay bare and cracked. Held back by an invisible wall of power, Han Li stood upon a shattered ridge, the scales retreating. His forehead was a bloody ruin in appearance, yet the injury was shallow. A phantom twin births tree bloomed over his brow, flesh knitting back together in moments. Far away, the mountains of his spirit domain still stood. From the eastern vicissitudes' divine tree, vines erupted wildly, coiling around Shui Changtian's ankles. Veins bulged on Shui Changtian's brow as he struggled, movements sluggish beneath the glow of a descending golden moon that bathed him in countless rays. Han Li flashed forward and brought his sword down without hesitation. No, you can't kill me! Shui Changtian cried in terror. The blade fell. Yet at the moment of contact, Shui Changtian's body liquefied, swallowing the azure bamboo cloudswarm sword. Han Li snorted coldly. Sword chi and golden lightning erupted, annihilating the liquid form. As expected, Han Li murmured, eyes narrowing. Late-grade encompassment cultivators don't die so easily. Thousands of kilometers away, vapor condensed into flesh. Shui Changtian reformed, rage blazing. You've angered me, Han Li. Surrender is no longer an option. You're slow to understand? Han Li scoffed. Shui Changtian checked himself, only to find severe cultivation regression. Impossible. Even if my body were destroyed once, it shouldn't be this much. Han Li merely smiled coldly. Trapped so long within the five-elemental illusory world, such loss was inevitable. So long as I stand at sea, I cannot be defeated. Shui Changtian steadied himself, rose, and formed a strange seal. Blue light ringed his body as vortices converged. From the horizon, a colossal wave surged forth, the black whale racing atop it. A deafening splash followed as a titanic water vortex rose and poured into Shui Changtian. His body turned deep blue, water armor forming as his aura soared, his lost cultivation rapidly restored. Seawater within nearly 100,000 kilometers vanished, leaving dry land strewn with withered marine beasts, the black whale among them. The strain was immense. Shui Changtian swelled to a colossal height, blue cracks spreading across his form. His aura reached the peak of great encompassment, yet he continued to draw more. Han Li's expression darkened. Golden ripples burst from him, sweeping hundreds of thousands of kilometers. From the heavens descended a blazing fireball vast beyond measure, heat raising the temperature of the world by thousands of times. Seawater evaporated before reaching Shui Changtian. The seabed turned to scorched desert. Power from the sea was severed. Water law energies bled away in the inferno. This must be an illusion, Shui Changtian shouted. Call it what you like, Han Li replied faintly. No illusion could suppress my laws. You cultivate time. How can you do this? Panic crept into Shui Changtian's voice as the fireball continued its descent. He exhaled slowly. So be it. Even so, you cannot match me now. Spreading his hands, he mimed drawing a bow. A colossal azure bow appeared, his spear reshaping into the arrow. Law power surged. Blue light spiraled at the tip. The arrow flew, shrieking through space, tearing black rifts in its wake. The fireball shattered into countless fragments as the arrow sped on. Han Li did not dodge. His 1,800 acupoints blazed as he swung his sword. Golden lightning erupted, forming a vast sword projection that met the arrow head-on. The heavens boomed. Both forces exploded, leaving behind a monstrous spatial rift like the maw of an ancient beast. At that very moment, Han Li streaked beneath the rift, sword aimed straight for the heart of Shui Changtian's towering form. Shui Changtian had long been on guard against Han Li. The instant Han Li moved, Shui Changtian roared and slammed a palm downward, intent on swatting him from the sky like an insect. The palm descended like a collapsing sea, vast and swift, yet it struck only emptiness. Han Li vanished like drifting smoke, then reappeared behind him, transformed into a fearsome dharmic apparition. 3 heads, 6 arms, towering tens of thousands of feet into the heavens, exuding demonic majesty. 6 arms moved as one. Fists tore through the air in a storm of shadows, crashing down in relentless succession. Explosions rang out without pause, countless impacts merging into a single thunderous roar that shook heaven and sea alike. Shui Changtian had no chance to retreat. His blue water armor shattered instantly, and his massive body was hammered down like a collapsing mountain. Only the sound of fists remained, as dense clouds of vapor burst forth, flooding the surrounds across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Even Violet Spirit and the others, already far away, felt their ears ring. Both sides halted instinctively, staring toward the source of the calamity. At last, the thunder ceased. When the dust cleared, Han Li stood once more in human form. At his feet lay a twisted corpse, barely recognizable as human. Before Han Li's terrifying physique, even a great encompassment body had been beaten into pulp. The storm in Han Li's heart had also been vented. He bent down, retrieved a storage bracelet, then lifted his gaze and smiled faintly. So you still had another trick. Space rippled. In an instant, narrow streets unfolded before his eyes, lively and crowded like a mortal city. Voices clashed, footsteps echoed, and the fragrance of freshly steamed buns drifted through the air. You hid yourself well, Han Li said calmly. He drew in a deep breath and exhaled. A fierce gale swept forth. The bustling city dissolved like mist beneath the sun, vanishing without a trace. Far away, Shui Changtian's fleeing soul had already escaped tens of thousands of kilometers. Han Li flicked his sleeve, releasing a streak of golden sword chi wrapped in time law. It disappeared in a blink. A shrill, despairing cry echoed through the void. Shui Changtian was no more. The remaining Heavenly Court cultivators were struck with terror and fled in all directions. Shi Chuankong and Violet Spirit did not pursue. They hurried to Han Li just as his mantra domain dissipated, revealing the seabed beneath. Seawater rushed back in, filling the abyss, the ocean level sinking noticeably before stabilizing. Seeing Han Li unharmed, Violet Spirit finally relaxed. Brother Han, you've become far stronger than I ever imagined. It's still not enough, Han Li replied quietly. I never expected an ambush the moment we returned to the true Immortal Realm, Shi Chuankong said gravely. More trouble lies ahead. That was to be expected, Han Li said with a faint smile. What will you do next? I'll return to the Devil Realm, Shi Chuankong sighed. With the current chaos, that's the safer choice for you, Han Li nodded. Why not come with me? Uncle Shi has already conquered nearly half the Devil Realm. Under his protection, the Heavenly Court wouldn't dare touch you, Shi Chuankong urged. Han Li shook his head. I can manage on my own. I only wish to cultivate in peace, not be dragged into further struggles. Shi Chuankong's expression turned slightly awkward. His intentions had been clear. Then we part ways again, he said, then turned to Violet Spirit. Will you return with me? Violet Spirit looked toward Han Li. The true Immortal Realm is too dangerous, Han Li said evenly. You should go with fellow Taoist Shi. And you? She asked. Wanner is in the reincarnation palace. That's where I'll go, Hanli answered. Both Violet Spirit and Shi Chuangkong stiffened. Please be careful, Shi Chuangkong said urgently. The reincarnation palace can rival the heavenly court. You've seen its master's strength. I won't act rashly, Hanli replied. Not until I reach late great encompassment. He knew well how terrifying the law of time could be. The more he cultivated it, the more its depth terrified him. He sensed that reaching late great encompassment would bring a profound transformation. I want to stay with you, Violet Spirit said suddenly. Hanli frowned. It's dangerous. I've always regretted not staying by your side, in the mortal world or the spirit realm, she interrupted softly. Please, let me stay now. Hanli's gaze softened. After a moment, he nodded. Joy bloomed across Violet Spirit's face, radiant enough to light the world. In that case, I'll return alone, Shi Chuangkong said, forcing a smile. I'll inform Uncle Shay. May we meet again. Take care, Hanli returned the salute. Shi Chuangkong's eyes lingered briefly on Violet Spirit before he departed as a streak of silver light. His hidden emotions did not escape their notice. He's helped me greatly, Violet Spirit said quietly, but there's nothing between us. I know, Hanli replied with a faint smile. He looked around, then said, Let's leave as well. Golden light swept up Violet Spirit as Hanli ascended skyward. Where are we going? She asked. Beyond the heavens. They pierced through the ethersphere and entered the astral sphere, where fierce astral winds howled. Violet Spirit felt a trace of fear, but Hanli flew on unimpeded, calmly explaining the realms beyond the sky. Golden ripples radiated from him, freezing every astral wind that touched them. Soon they reached the extra heaven sphere. Black space stretched endlessly, filled with drifting asteroids and chaotic storms, a sight so grand that Violet Spirit was left speechless. Why bring me here? She finally asked. To cultivate in seclusion, Hanli replied. Under the heavens, we can't escape the Tao ancestors' sight. Only here can we remain unseen. This place is dangerous, Violet Spirit said softly. Leave it to me? Hanli smiled, his spiritual sense sweeping across the void as he pressed onward. Hanli and Violet Spirit streaked through the extra heaven sphere for days on end before finally slowing amid a sea of asteroids. This region was unlike any they had passed before. Every stone lay utterly still, untouched by raging currents or energy storms. At the heart of the cluster hovered a colossal black sphere, tens of thousands of kilometers wide, its surface breathing with chaotic energy and faint ripples of law power. This is it, Hanli said quietly. I didn't expect it to reveal itself so easily. Violet Spirit gazed at the sphere in awe. What is that black mass? And why is everything here so tranquil? Do you remember the all-devouring black vortexes we encountered earlier? Hanli asked. She nodded. They swallowed everything in their path. Those vortexes are warped spatial power, Hanli explained. They consume endlessly until they reach their limit. When that happens, they condense into objects like this. Only after his previous venture into the extra heaven sphere had Hanli uncovered this truth. So these are their final forms, Violet Spirit murmured. Each one is a priceless natural treasure, Hanli said. They contain staggering reserves of energy, like peerless ore veins born of heaven itself. Unfortunately, they're far too vast to store and impossible to transport back to the astral sphere. That is indeed a shame, Violet Spirit replied thoughtfully. Such a resource alone could sustain an immortal sect. Because they devour immense energy, the surrounding space remains calm for ages, Hanli continued. And they're rich in world's origin chi. This is the perfect place to enter seclusion. With no objections raised, Hanli carved a cave abode directly into the black sphere. After laying down layers of restrictions, the two entered the flower branch domain. There, Hanli activated the celestial time array, accelerating time to 30,000 times the outside flow. So this is your accelerated time domain, Violet Spirit breathed. It's astonishing. Hanli smiled faintly. After a brief exchange, both entered deep cultivation. Within the bamboo pavilion, Hanli sat cross-legged and produced a white jade slip, the final inheritance of the spirit refinement technique. After a moment's hesitation, he sent his spiritual sense inside. He needed strength, no matter the cost, even if it meant sacrificing the potential of countless future incarnations. With his mastery of the earlier levels, comprehending the final two stages took little time. He immediately began cultivating. Even while refining his spirit, he summoned rare materials and released golden flames from his mouth, refining them with effortless precision. Half a month passed. The flames dispersed, revealing two golden puppets, faint time law fluctuations pulsing within them. Hanli smiled and produced two white vials radiating soul power. Forming seals, light shimmered at his glabella. His eyes snapped open. Two translucent beams shot forth, and twin green lights emerged, shaping into miniature soul avatars. At his command, they entered the puppets. Incantation seals followed, and the puppets' eyes slowly opened, vivid and alive. Two drops of golden spirit liquid fused into their glabellas, making their gazes even clearer. Hanli continued refining them, golden radiance gradually enveloping their forms. More than a year slipped by. When the light faded, the puppets possessed intelligence no different from living beings. Hanli exhaled in relief. These were earthly deity avatars, refined through secret arts of the true mantra sect, beings bearing time law power, far more intricate than his earlier creation in the Black Wind Sea. He had not crafted them to walk the earthly immortal path, nor to gather faith. They were prepared for future corpse soul severances. Having once tasted the Heavenly Fox tribe's corpse soul severance technique, Han Li intended to employ it again. Though compatibility required long refinement, time meant nothing within this domain. He sent the avatars away to cultivate, then meditated. Splitting his soul twice had left even him wary. After half a year, he fully recovered. At last, he began his second corpse soul severance. Golden light erupted around him. His spirit domain blazed brighter than ever as torrents of world's origin chi poured in, thickening the flower branch domain manyfold. Violet spirit awoke at once, joy flashing across her face. She glanced toward Hanli's pavilion, then resumed cultivating. 200,000 years passed like a sigh. Black light wrapped around Violet spirit, forming a cocoon. Her aura surged back to the pinnacle of the high zenith stage. Though her cultivation had once fallen, her foundation endured, and now it was firmer than before. Her eyes opened. The black light dissolved into her body. She produced a purple jade vial sealed with a black talisman, true profound essence within. She hesitated, weighing a breakthrough to the great encompassment stage. At that moment, the golden spirit domain vanished. Time resumed its normal flow. The pavilion doors burst open. Hanli emerged, frustration written plainly on his face. Violet spirit put away the vial and approached. Sensing her restored aura, Hanli's expression softened. "It seems you gained greatly." "And you?" she asked. "Was it not smooth?" "I underestimated the difficulty of severing my kind corpse soul," Hanli replied wryly. She frowned. "You severed your wicked corpse soul with ease. Why is this one so different?" "Corpse soul severance has 2 steps," Hanli explained. "First, sensing the corpse soul's existence. Second, understanding its deepest fixation. I bypassed the first step before, and my wicked fixations were clear. I've shed blood countless times. But kindness?" He sighed softly. "I've killed without pause on this long path. I haven't abandoned my humanity, yet my heart has grown cold. For 200,000 years, I couldn't even sense the presence of my kind corpse soul, much less sever it." His words fell like a quiet blade, sharp and heavy in the stillness. "Does this not afflict all cultivators alike?" Violet spirit asked softly. Hanli let out a slow breath. "That is precisely why so many are halted before the late, great encompassment stage. To sever one's kind corpse soul is no simple feat." Her brows knit together. "Then what should be done?" "I have reached the pinnacle of the mid-great encompassment stage. Further seclusion will gain me nothing," Hanli replied. "Rather than force cultivation, I should seek insight elsewhere." Violet Spirit's eyes brightened. Senior Shi once said that beyond a certain realm, the heart and mind decide all breakthroughs. I've never truly seen the true Immortal Realm. Brother Han, you must take me to see it. Her cheer lifted his spirits. The true Immortal Realm is far vaster than the Devil Realm. You won't regret it. Truth be told, I've never wandered it freely either. With that, he took her hand and departed the Flower Branch domain. The Northern Light Immortal region lay at the fringes of the true Immortal Realm, famed for its auroras. Few below the high zenith stage ever knew of it, for most cultivators never left their birth regions. Even among the powerful, few were willing to abandon cultivation for scenery. The higher one climbed, the heavier ambition weighed. At the region's northern extreme stood a frozen continent, crowned by mountains piercing the clouds. Melted snow carved countless waterfalls down their slopes. When auroras bloomed, light danced upon the falling water, turning the peaks into a dreamlike realm. Disguised, Hanli and Violet Spirit stood upon a summit, quietly admiring the sight. They drifted next across Heavenly Nest Lake, in the Jade Lake Immortal region. Mist cloaked its surface year-round, shifting from white to purple to pink with the seasons. Spirit jade glimmered beneath, and the lake's fame echoed far and wide as their small boat glided silently over its waters. At the Heavenly Fire Immortal region, Firebird Mountain Range rose like flocks of soaring birds. Magma erupted from the peaks, as though countless fiery beasts breathed from the earth. The two stood upon a dead volcano, watching molten light paint the sky. Green mud swamps, crimson sun seas, storm-racked mountains, region after region unfolded before them. With Hanli's cultivation, travel was swift. In under 300 years, they crossed more than 20 immortal regions, yet had only skimmed the true Immortal Realm's boundless expanse. Wary of the Heavenly Court and Reincarnation Palace, they kept to small and middling regions, changing appearances often. Their caution spared them trouble. In the eastern Soaring Wings Immortal region lay a range filled with crimson bamboo. When wind passed through, the forest roared like waves, thus named the Bamboo Sea. Near it stood Jade Mountain City. On the third floor of a restaurant, Hanli and Violet Spirit sat by the window, sipping bright red wine brewed from bamboo roots, fragrant and mellow. The Crimson Bamboo Sea lives up to its name, Violet Spirit said, smiling. This mortal wine is surprisingly fine. Hanli drained his cup and nodded. Even to his seasoned palate, it was excellent. He gazed down at the bustling streets. For 200,000 years in the Flower Branch domain, he had refined his spirit and reached the 6th level of the spirit refinement technique. Yet now he chose to see with mortal eyes. The city teemed with life. Scholars and merchants, warriors and farmers, beggars and officials. Voices rose and fell, carrying joy, sorrow, anger, and hope. Hanli sighed faintly and poured another cup. No one escapes the mortal coil, neither mortals nor cultivators. Even immortals cannot sever emotion and desire, Violet Spirit murmured. Silence fell between them. Any progress sensing your kind corpse soul? She asked. Hanli shook his head. You've traveled with me for over 200 years. Why not return to seclusion tomorrow? She suggested gently. He smiled faintly. Such severance cannot be forced by time alone. Otherwise, it would not bar so many. I sense my answer lies still among mortals. Let us continue. She smiled, and they drank together once more. At that moment, a storyteller's voice rang through the hall, recounting a sword immortal slaying a wicked dragon, moonlight dimmed by flying sword radiance. In Soaring Wings Immortal region, immortals never appeared among mortals, making such tales all the more enchanting. The elderly storyteller paused for tea. A young maiden stepped forward with a copper dish, smiling shyly. Coins clinked eagerly. Hanli smiled faintly. In his youth, he had never heard storytellers, only scraps of tales from travelers. He had once yearned for immortals, just as these listeners did. As the girl gathered coins, rough remarks rose. She blushed, hiding her face, retreating in haste. Suddenly, a drunken youth seized her wrist, leering as she screamed. The storyteller rushed forward and was struck aside, blood spilling as he fell. "Grandpa," the girl cried, struggling in vain. Some patrons fled in fear. A flicker of displeasure passed through Hanli's eyes, but he remained seated. In the mortal world, such scenes were all too common.